And shalom, everybody. Welcome to Oklahoma City, King James Bible University. I am Deacon Micah, and today I have a quick teaching on Genesis chapter 17, verse 9 through 11, circumcision of the flesh of the foreskin. And, a fellow sister of ours asked a question about this the other day on this subject, and my spirit led me to do a teaching in social precepts on this matter. So here we are. So if you want to take some notes as we go along, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'll have the precept cheat sheet at the very end. So if you just want to use an electronic device and get a snapshot at the very end, just feel free to do so, whatever best suits you both. All right, so Genesis chapter 17, verse 9 through 11. And God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man among you shall be circumcised, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you. All right, so family, the first important thing to know about these scriptures is that the Most High is addressing the entire house of Israel. So where it states right here, this circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, that's talking about the entire house. That's male and female. The reason being is this. So this word child in verse 10 is italicized. So it was only supplied there by the translators, and it has no weight in the actual scripture and biblical text. So it's not there. And depending on the publishing house for your King James 1611, if it's from a reputable publisher, then that word child is going to be italicized. So Genesis 17 and 10, it reads, every man among you shall be circumcised. So that's man, M-A-N, not M-E-N. So that's the entire house of Israel. So the covenant of circumcision, therefore, then it's a spiritual thing and it's not just a carnal thing. Watch this. So Romans chapter 2, verse 28 and 29. For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God. So one thing we have to remember about the Most High is that he is a spirit. So in order for him to show us what he is trying to get us to understand spiritually, he uses examples that we can physically see with our own eyes, which is why in the letters, Galatians chapter 3, verse 24, the males, they're circumcised in their foreskin, but the actual real matter that the Most High is concerned about, then it's inwardly, not outwardly. So Psalms chapter 51, verse 6, and 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. Behold, remember, thou desirest truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part thou shalt make me to know wisdom. But the Lord said unto Samuel, Look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord sees not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh upon the heart. So going back up to Genesis chapter 17, verse 11, the flesh of your foreskin, you're removing the flesh of the foreskin of your heart, and removing that flesh of the foreskin of being disobedient unto the voice of God. So Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 16, and Jeremiah 4, verse 4, circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked. Circumcise yourselves to the Lord, and take away the foreskins of your heart, you men of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem, which spiritually speaking, that's referring to us, lest my fury come forth like a fire, and burn that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings. So family, we have to remove the foreskins of our heart to be obedient. So spiritually speaking, to become a sheep and not a wild ass, because the sheep will follow the shepherd, and the wild ass, then not so much.
Whammy. Now I gave him a bump and he didn't come, so I'm gonna give him a little harder bump, a little harder pull. He's gonna fight me. Whoa.
So got John chapter 10, verse 27, and Exodus 13 and 13. So my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. So that's the characteristics of sheep, that it's going to obey the voice of Christ. Exodus 13, verse 13, and every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb. And if thou wilt not redeem it, then thou shalt break his neck. And all the firstborn of man among thy children shalt thou redeem. Which that man, that's M-A-N, not M-E-N. So that's what the covenant of circumcision is, family. It's an inward transformation of one state to the other. So from being stiff-necked to becoming humble and obedient and filled with God's Spirit. So that's what circumcision is. And watch this. So then I'm using a principle from Isaiah chapter 28, verse 10, doing precept upon precept, line upon line. So we have different books in the Bible that's talking about this covenant, and at no time does anything change. So the covenant, and it's you being subject to the Most High Spirit and his laws and his truth being inside of you. So starting with Isaiah 59, verse 21, as for me, this is my covenant with them, saith the Lord. My spirit that is upon thee, and my words which I have put in thy mouth shall not depart out of thy mouth, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, saith the Lord, from henceforth and forever. Now let's look at Hebrews chapter 10, verse 16. This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds will I write them. Got Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 33. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my laws into their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. And then we have Exodus 19, verse 5. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. So all throughout Scripture, family, the details about this covenant doesn't change. Malachi 3 and 6 told us that the Lord doesn't change. So I remembered that, and I ran these precepts from different books just to show you that the covenant of circumcision, it's inward and spiritual, and concerning your heart, which spiritually speaking, that's the ark being filled with God's Spirit. So we got Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 6, and Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 26 and 27. And the Lord thy God will circumcise thy heart and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And we're going to get ready to talk about this at the very end. That's why I bolded that, and this is something serious. And then we have Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 26 and 27. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them. So you see, family, God's Spirit is the means for this inward circumcision, which is the circumcision made without hands, that condition that's required of Abraham and his seed after him. So that's talking about us, Israel. So we got Colossians chapter 2, verse 11, and also chapter 3, verse 10. In whom, which this is talking about Christ, in whom also you are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, and putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. And that's circumcision, just going from one inward state to the other. All right, family, so as I get ready to wrap this teaching, there's just a couple of more precepts that we need to address. So we got Genesis chapter 17, verse 14. So this is the law. And the uncircumcised man, whose flesh of his foreskin, spiritually speaking, is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. Reason why? He has broken my covenant. So I just wanted to show you the plumb line in our covenant. So the judgment of an uncircumcised heart. When this is all said and done, we will all appear before the Most High, either circumcised, which is being filled with the Spirit, or uncircumcised, just being void of the Spirit of God. And if you appear before him empty, you will die. So Sirach 35:4, thou shalt not appear empty before the Lord. And precept below, then it's showing you what can cause you to appear empty before the Most High. So Wisdom of Solomon 1:4, for into a malicious soul wisdom shall not enter, nor dwell in the body that is subject unto sin. Reason why is for circumcision very profited if thou keep the law. But if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision. So, in other words, then you have to be obeying the Spirit of the Most High so that for that Spirit to come and dwell inside of your body. Otherwise, and if you're stiff-necked and subject to sin, that Spirit is going to leave and you're going to be a vessel without the water in it. And when you appear before the Most High, as it's stated up here in Genesis 17:14, if flesh of your foreskin is not circumcised, you will be cut off from among the people because you've broken the covenant. Which leads us to the final precept of today's lesson. So Hosea chapter 4 verse 6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. So Hosea 4:6, and that's lining up with what Genesis chapter 17:14 is saying, appearing before the Most High, uncircumcised in the flesh of the foreskin of your heart. So family, then this wraps up the teaching on circumcision and what the flesh of the foreskin and the circumcision is spiritually. And hopefully all of you were richly edified with this teaching. Then if you have any other questions, email me at micah.harper2793@yahoo.com. So once again, that's micah.harper2793@yahoo.com. So then I'm getting ready to head on out and pick up the precept cheat sheet. And until next time, family, shalom and peace.